Okay, before we go out and do some driving today, we're just going to work a little bit on steering wheel control. So that way you know the different types of steering. And if you have any questions or we need to practice a little bit more, we can practice it while we're sitting still in our parking spot here and not actually trying to slow down and make a turn and you know, work on all those other things at the same time when we're actually on a street trying to make a turn. So go ahead and turn the steering wheel all the way to the right, just like you were turning a corner. Good. All right. Yep. And then all the way back to the left. Good. Yep. Good. Yep. So that's called hand over hand steering. And that's what most people learn. That's probably what your parents learned when they took driver's ed. And there's nothing wrong with hand over hand steering. But we'll go through another type of steering as well. So one thing about hand over hand steering, you want to kind of pass the steering wheel from one hand to the other. So if we're going to make a right turn, yep. So one thing to remember is you don't want your hands to go down past kind of the halfway point on the steering wheel. Yep. Because your arms can kind of get twisted up. So anytime, whether it's a left turn or a right turn, and your hand gets to about that 3 o'clock on the right position or the 9 o'clock position on the left, that's when you want to take your hand off, yep, and reach across. Again, thinking about that 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock hand position, reaching across to that. So if we're turning the wheel to the right, reaching across with your right hand and grabbing at the 10 o'clock position and then pulling across to the right. Yep, yep, exactly, yep. So reach and pull, reach and pull. Yep. So if we're going to make a left turn, it'd be the same thing with your left hand. Once your left hand goes down below that halfway point, that 9 o'clock position on your steering wheel, that's when you want to take your hand off, reach across to that 2 o'clock position. Yep. And then pull, reach and pull. Yep. So, yep. So let's go ahead and let's practice that to the right again. So good. Yep. So try to reach across as far as you can. Yep, there you go, good. And again, once your hand gets to that halfway point, that's when you want to take it off so you don't get your arms twisted up kind of at the underneath side of the steering wheel. Yep, yep, good. So again, the farther you reach across, the more efficient you'll be with your steering because you can move the wheel farther when you reach a little bit farther across the wheel, kind of that 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position. If you kind of just reach up to the top of the wheel to kind of the 12 o'clock position, you're only turning the wheel about half as much as if you're reaching across. Yep. And so again, you don't have to reach all the way across, but again, it's just something to think about. So you don't have to turn the wheel as fast or as much if you reach just a little bit farther across. Again, from instead of reaching just to the top of the wheel, reaching just a little bit farther across, either to that 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock position. Okay. Now, one thing about hand over hand steering that is different than when I learned it or when your parents learned it is airbags. And so if your arms are crossed, if you're making a turn and your arms are crossed and the airbag explodes out of the steering wheel at over 200 miles per hour, what's going to happen?
It's going to hit your arms.
Yeah, it's going to hit your arms. It could potentially hurt your arms. You know, your arms could come off the wheel and you could smack yourself in the face. So for that reason, they recommend not using hand over hand steering. And you still can, you know, people might go through their whole life and never have an airbag, you know, come out of the steering wheel, but we always want to prepare for the worst. So there is another type of steering that I'll show you. And we're just going to practice both of them as we make turns, just so you have options, right? I don't expect you to only use one type of steering or the other, okay? So this is called hand-to-hand or push-pull steering, and it might seem a little confusing because it's a little different than hand-over-hand. So instead of working the top of the wheel like we do with hand-over-hand steering, we're going to work the sides of the steering wheel. So a couple things to remember about hand-to-hand or push-pull steering is your right hand always stays on the right-hand side of the steering wheel, and your left hand always stays on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, okay? And then the other thing to remember is your hands always mirror each other, okay? So they're always across from each other. So they're both at the top and as they slide down, they both, so, you know, when your left hand is at the 9 o'clock position, your right hand's at the 3 o'clock position. As they slide down, they will meet together at the bottom of the wheel, or almost meet together. So basically what you're doing is you're grabbing the wheel at the top, and then you're pulling down to the bottom, and while you're pulling down with one hand, you're sliding the opposite hand down to the bottom to meet it. Okay, yep, so when you pull down with your left, slide your right hand down to the bottom to meet it, and then push up. So you're gonna pull down with your left to make a left turn, and push up with your right. Now we're gonna make a right turn. So we'll grab with our right hand at the top, we'll pull down with our right, and slide our left hand down. Good, yep, yep. So our hands always meet at the top and at the bottom. Yep, so remember, your hands always mirror each other. So they're both at the top, and then they're both at the bottom. Yep, so it's pull, slide, push, slide, pull, slide, push, slide. And it takes some practice to kind of get the feel for it. So let's try a left turn again. Pull down with your left, slide down with your right, push up with your right, slide up with your left. Yep, yep, and then push up. Good. Yep, and it takes some practice. And so we'll practice it more. Sometimes when you're actually making a turn, it actually makes more sense, and you can do it a little bit easier, a little bit better. So, all right, any questions about the two types of steering?
No.
And again, with the two-hand steering, then your arms are never across the steering wheel. So if the airbag comes out, you don't have to worry about your arms getting hit by the airbag. So it's a little bit safer. And most of my drivers, after they've gotten some practice at it and they've got a feel for it and they're a little more comfortable with it, they end up using the push-pull steering more than they use the hand-over-hand steering. Sometimes that hand-over-hand steering, you know, can be a little cumbersome when your hands are kind of hitting each other. You know, when you're working the side of the wheel with the push-pull, you don't have to worry about your hands, you know, hitting each other as you're crossing over. So, all right, any questions?
No.
All right, good job.